I'm Erin Lawler-Patterson, the Goodness Chick. I'm an addictions counselor, motivational speaker, author, and parent coach. Join me on the journey of navigating the joys and pitfalls of life, addressing parenting, giving back, mental health, addiction, and relationships. If it takes a village, then join me as one of those villagers. Villagers wanted.
Passion, passion, passion. So that is what today's episode is about. Being passionate. And there's many facets of life that we can be passionate about. I think too often, sometimes we kind of get caught up in the rigmarole of life, obligations, labels, and we become so entrenched in what we think we're supposed to be doing, and our tentacles in a million directions. We lose out on being passionate about something we believe in. And that comes in a lot of different forms. We can be passionate about life. We can be passionate about a particular cause. We can be passionate about our faith. Passion comes in a lot of different forms. My guest today really kind of knocked my socks off. Her name is Silvia Demeter-Lowe. She is a Romanian. She is born and raised in Brașov. She's a conservation architect. Also, I would kind of throw on the fact that she's she's an activist, very politically minded for progress in Romania, for a country that isn't mired in corruption, but has the best interest of the people. And having the opportunity to sit and chat with her was really something I considered a privilege. And it allowed me to kind of reassess a little bit, what am I passionate about, and how important it is to have passion within our lives. And we can be passionate about a few different things. We can't be passionate about, 175 different things, but it's kind of finding things that are heavy on our heart, finding things that give us a drive and a mission, and that push that really in the end not only allows us to make a difference, but it also brings forth a sense of purpose, a sense of hope, and that we are doing something and not just being quiet, not just being still. And when we kind of get in a plateau state of life, we're just kind of spinning our wheels. I do believe this can play a role in us becoming not only complacent in life, but kind of getting in a state of funkiness. Passion can do great things, whether that's being passionate about finding a cure for cancer, passionate about finding a solution for homelessness, finding the right support for those who have served our country when they come back, and finding the right resources. You can be passionate about your faith. That's something that I am very passionate about. It gives me hope. It gives me purpose, gives me direction, and gives me peace. Purpose comes in so many different forms, having that passion. It can move us forward. It can be tiring, but I believe that these things outweigh that being tired. When we surround ourselves by people who are positively passionate, I'm going to kind of put those two things together, it can do wonderful things. There's people who can be passionate in a toxic form, in a negative form. I'm going to say no on that one. And one of the things I really thought was very cool that Sylvia had touched on, because I'd asked her about protests that she was involved in here in Romania, in Bucharest. And she, had really corrected me and said it wasn't about being against something, but advocating for progress, advocating for a country that isn't mired in corruption. And I thought to myself, wow, that's really puts a different spin on things. Going for something, and what a beautiful thing that is. And so I hope when you tune in today, not only it's about kind of reigniting that fire, what are we passionate about? But it's also, I believe in our kind of world tour over the next number of months, learning about different cultures, learning about different countries. And I would, if I were to ask most people, whether it's Americans or Brits, what's been going on in Romania, say, I have no clue. It's so neat when we learn from others. And that's kind of this dual focus that I've been taking, not just mental health and addiction, but life, and it all kind of squishes together. Learning from each other is a beautiful thing. And there's a lot of political unrest going here that is for the better of the people. So I hope you tune in, listen, and I hope you dig it.
All right. So I have Silvia with me. You are obviously Romanian. Hello. Silvia. You're an architect. I really was intrigued and wanted to chat, which we are literally we're on top of a hotel overlooking an amazing city. And a city that you call home, correct?
Yes. I was born in Brasov.
You were born in Brasov. You raised in Brasov. So have you spent your whole life here?
Almost. I did a lot of traveling, and actually at one point I moved to UK, and I came back 10 years ago after spending 16 years traveling around the world and living in UK for another 10.
Oh wow. Okay, so you've seen the world.
Yes,
you've literally seen the world.
Yes.
What brought you back here, home?
What brought me back? One of the reasons was a divorce that made me think where I want to live, and of course losing my family in UK, it meant that the roots brought me back.
Brought you back.
Brought me back to Brasov, and also my my passion and my profession, being a conservation architect, it's always you want to go and preserve and save the heritage that you know is very close to your heart.
Okay, which there's
that's home.
and here there's so much history and so much to preserve and beauty. I know in recent days there's been a lot of kind of commotion and activity here, unrest within Romania. Can you, for those who are listening, whether in the UK, whether in the United States, describing exactly what this political people unrest is about and what your hope is, the long-term outcome?
Yes. Okay, considering the Romanian history, Romanians tend to say that, stay out of politics, don't get involved, we don't care about politics. But we got to the stage where, after 20 years of so-called democracy and freedom after the revolution in '89, we realized that we now under kind of a lot of pressure, there is a lot of frustrations where more and more Romanian wants, they're obliged actually, they need to leave the country. And that's something that it's so sad, it's the conditions in this country, they're getting harder and harder every day, and this is mainly due to corruption, which it's actually the way politics function in Romania. And if you look historically in Romania, from the first chronics, it seems that here there is this sort of almost complacent. Romanians tend to say that kind of the head that bows is not going to be cut by the sword, and this is due also to kind of the geographical position. We always been at the crossroads, and almost like the battlefield of Europe, the meeting place between the East and the West, between so-called the Western civilizations and the barbarians, and we kind of got used to just kind of bowing our heads. And but in the same time, Romanians also have another saying that we compare our attitude with the polenta, the maize that you boil and it seems to be all kind of all quiet, but suddenly even that explodes, And I think we go to this point where the polenta is ready to explode. It's imagine that out of a population of something that was supposed to be around 21 millions, 4 millions of Romanians live abroad, and more are considering leaving the country.
4 million.
Yes, and we are now considered to be the second country in the world after Syria that has, have the greatest number of
people departing.
And, how can we compare a country like Romania in Europe with a country that is under siege and in war? So the situation, it's a sort of a quiet war in a way. This is how we feel it, and it's an economic war that it's a consequence of the politics, corruption in Romania. Too much stealing and too much kind of lying, and
well, and the people suffer for it.
Yes, imagine, the money that should go to hospitals, they disappear.
Yeah.
The money that's supposed to go to school, they disappear. The money that's supposed to go to infrastructure is disappearing, And even European money that come to this country for strategic projects, they also disappear due to corruption. It's kind of no limits to what's happening. And of course, you see, people are afraid to go to the hospitals because they come out sometimes even sicker than they went in because of the condition. Then you have the condition in schools, the future of our country, that the level of kind of education is kind of going...
Is it getting worse?
Worse and worse in a very accelerated way. And parents start to think that, kind of homeschooling starts to be the only alternative. And yeah, so the situation, I think it's pretty dire under this sort of peaceful, quiet, beautiful kind of environment.
It's a breathtaking environment, but with a lot boiling underneath.
Yes.
What do you hope to see in the way of change for not only Romania, but I think about your 4-year-old daughter? What do you hope for her generation?
What do I hope? I hope that we'll manage to have, a culture that is changing towards a kind of more responsible culture, where to see more unity. Romanians are not known for unity. This year we celebrate 100 years of unity because in 1918 Romania, as we know it as a country and with this name, it's celebrating this year 100 years. So it's a moment of celebration, but we should be up there to the expectation of such a celebration. We should be united. We should, you're American. I absolutely love the idea. I've discovered that the Iraqi tribe, every decision they took for the tribe, they were considering the consequences for the next 8 generations. This is what I would like to see, that we take decisions for at least 8 generations from now on. And people today, the people that voted for the PSD, the Socialist Democratic Party, we're talking about an older generation that they're happy that they got 100 lei, which is equivalent of, how should I say, something like
25 US.
I don't know, let's say $50 US, more for their pension. But they don't realize that the cost for their grandchildren, because now our country is going into debt every day with milliards, and somebody has to pay, and it's going to be their grandchildren. So how can you be happy that you have 50 more US dollars at a pension, but you know that your child is losing all the resources that there are in the countries? They're all sold for nothing, and they are going to get to pay the debts that this generation is incurring. It's something. It's lack of responsibility. It's lack of taking into account sustainability of caring for the next generation, and something that it's unacceptable. It's not sustainable. It's not acceptable. And we can't continue like this.
Change needs to happen.
And more and more people are leaving the country and they don't want to. I mean, I'm one of them that, as I said, I lived in UK for so long. I came back. I know how should I say, a democratic country should be run. Of course, there is corruption everywhere. Of course, there isn't a country where there isn't corruption. But where the level of corruption kills so many people and makes so many people to want to leave the country,
and driving people out.
Driving people out. It's not okay.
That's not okay.
It's not okay, and I think we got to the point where we are so frustrated, so disappointed, and yes, we look at our children and we want to know that we've done something for them. Yes, it's not for us. It's for our grandchildren and
that future generations.
Yes.
And I think for you, I mean, your passion is obvious, but it is, and I think passion makes change.
Yes.
And coming in, the other day night we were driving in from out of town, and there's people everywhere, and it was my thought was, wow, jumping on Google, getting some insight and learning what are people protesting. I need to know more about this because I admire what you are doing, because it's not just saying we want change, we're marching for change, we're giving our voices. We want, you want your daughter and 8 generations to have hope. And I know somebody, like as a tourist, not that I didn't have any expectations coming to Romania. I just, hey, we're hopping on the plane, we're coming here. This has blown every expectation out of the water. It is breathtaking. The people are wonderful. We've hit many regions here. There's nothing we don't like.
Isn't this unbelievable that we have so many resources, natural resources?
So many.
We have anything you can think of, any form of kind of, from the sea to the mountains to plains to anything. It's a very rich earth that we have. We have very rich, under the ground resources, everything, and still we live like really like a poor country that, you know, like we live in a desert, and that's
unacceptable.
It's unacceptable.
Yeah.
So, and what happened in Bucharest, it's also something that really makes us kind of worry, but worry in a positive way, that enough is enough. I mean, how can you have, you know, we had an amazing turnout with expats coming back to Romania to kind of say we want to come back to a country which is run decently, you know, and
that's not asking a lot.
that is not asking a lot. It's very famous Romanian graphic designer. You know, it was a very good image where, you know, you have a gendarme and a protester with a phone, with a light, you know, kind of hoping for a better life, but just with the light on the phone and saying, stop threatening you with your light, you know. This was kind of a very good image of what happened there. A gendarme with all the, you know, with guns and tear gas, and a family with their phones with the light. You know, is this fair? How it goes?
Who just want to be heard. Right.
Yes. So no, it's the polenta has to blow out. Explode.
Yeah, the polenta, and hopefully without people
I'm
being
going to
hurt.
give another quote. I'm not going to say by whom, but I love it. Somebody that we all know, but said, you know, if you're going to ask me to come to a protest against something, I won't come. But if you ask me to come for a protest for something, I'll be there. You know, I'm not for violence. I'm not for hate. I'm not for being against. I'm for peace, for unity, for understanding, for, you know, so I'm always going to encourage to go somewhere for something good, not against something bad. So we were there for something good, you know, for thinking for the future of our generation. And nobody there was, except the agitators, nobody was there except them to incite for violence or hate or anything else.
And my hope is your voice will be heard. Change. I do, from the bottom of my heart, because I have been blown away at how spectacular this country is, and corruption gets us nowhere, and that the expats will return.
Corruption and hate and you know, kind of
division,
harming other people just for the benefits of the few.
Right.
This is something that it's not acceptable.
It's not acceptable. Keep fighting. Keep fighting, girl. But thank you for taking your time. Passion is an awesome thing. Sylvia definitely inspired me and encouraged me, and throughout the course of the past month that we've been in Romania, we've kind of crossed paths. The number of people who have different types of passions for life. Two gentlemen in particular we met about a week ago. We were about an hour and a half outside of Brasov, and stayed in the middle of this beautiful stretch of forest, sat, had dinner with these two gentlemen who were pretty much preservation volunteers to fight big corporations when it came to them, people from Germany, Austria, the UK, coming in and trying to buy up land to clear forests for minimal money, because poverty is an issue out here. And these guys are standing on the front lines trying to save, essentially, forests that would otherwise be demolished, you know, with no intention of replenishing it, just chopping trees down to make some fast cash and moving on to the next village. And so these guys, this is one of their life missions, is to preserve their country. So again, passion comes in so many different forms. And my question I will leave you with is, do you have a passion? What is tugging at your heartstrings? Are you waking every day, and is it the same kind of routine where there's nothing that sparks your interest? There's nothing that kind of gives you that push. And if that's the case, Start kicking around, what's my passion? What is it that just makes my heart swell and gives me that fire? Because as long as you're breathing, it's never too late to have passion. I encourage you to hop on and subscribe to this podcast if you haven't already. Pass it on to a friend, because the more goodness we keep going out there in a crazy train world, the better off we are. Peace, love, and goodness, my friends. If you enjoyed today's show, I encourage you to subscribe to Goodness Chicks Podcast and pass it along to your friends. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and have a great day.